Welcome to the Leaders Lounge. As y'all can see, we have a sign that we are showing today. We are constantly on the move to offer looks that are in line with our brand and in line with the changes that we're making here to create the best experience for those people who visit the Leaders Lounge. I am Dawn Marie Morris. I am the Chief Training Officer of the World Class Training Institute. And of course, the Leaders Lounge is an outgrowth of the World Class Training Institute, where we seek to maximize human capital through the delivery of leadership and professional development training programs. The Leaders Lounge is this place where leaders can come to, as I say, just exhale or inhale, and as we have as our coffee mug, just get some energy to strengthen their walk as leaders and heads of organizations, departments, businesses, all of those things. And so here we are in the Leaders Lounge. In this space, we talk about all things related to leadership and professional development. And we're going to focus today on another leader. Leaders are just popping up doing things over these last few weeks. So we're staying in this zone here to discuss leaders and leaders who are in the news, so to speak, and talk about like what they did well, what they could have done differently in their leadership journey. And hopefully this helps you as you are walking in yours. We will get to who we're talking about today in a moment. But first, I want you all to, of course, pick up our book, Unpacking Agape, The 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership. That book focuses on how leaders go from being an individual contributor to leaders of people and walks through 7 languages or behaviors. Because I always say that the best way that language is demonstrated is by behavior, because I can tell you I love you. But if I don't show you, you probably should not believe me. So these behaviors are things that leaders should demonstrate if they are operating from a place of servant leadership. And so please go pick up that book at worldclasstraining.net/agape. That's worldclasstraining.net/agape. Now, and of course, connect to us, the World Class Training Institute, for all of your leadership and professional development training needs at worldclasstraining.net. That's worldclasstraining.net. Go ahead and do that now. You can always go to the bottom. Just fill out a quick form, and then we can always have a consultation and talk about what your organization's leadership and professional development needs are. Finally, before we get into this hot topic, please make sure to like and subscribe to our channel. We are growing rapidly. I'm so excited about that, which means that there are a lot of leaders out there who are benefiting from the great information that we're sharing every week. So don't miss it. Just go ahead and like right now. Please subscribe so that you are notified every time we deliver some great information for you. So now let's talk about our leader of the week. And that person is Caroline Wanga, or Wanga, as I heard on one of her podcast episodes. So it's pronounced Wanga. I did read her book called I'm Highly Percent Sure. And this was before I even knew that there were any challenges with her at Essence Fest. I happened to see her on an Instagram post. And some of the things that she said about the agency of your authenticity coming to life resonated. And so I said, let me go grab this book. And so I was able to get a even greater lens into her walk from Target to becoming the head of Essence and some of the drivers that undergirded her during that period of time. So Caroline Wanga, for those people who are not familiar, was once at Target Corporation, which is another company, which is a company, I should say, that has come under fire recently for its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and how they have rolled back some of their initiatives. So Miss Wanga used to be, interestingly enough, the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion for Target Corporation before she became the CEO of Essence, which I talked about a little bit after I had gone to Essence Fest last year, because a lot of people in the African American community have stopped patronizing Target because of those rollbacks. And there also was a movement to not even go to Essence Fest because Target was a major sponsor of Essence. But as I shared, well, Caroline Wanga is the CEO of Essence, or was at that time. Brian Cornell, who also wrote the foreword of her book, was the CEO of Target at the time. And so to think that Essence was going to pull out of that relationship when it was built several years ago through her time at Target was something that probably was not going to happen. And in fact, it did not happen. Now, since Essence has ended and Essence Fest did not go in the way that it has gone in years past, which has been a phenomenal event for the African American community, particularly African American women. Music festivals, shopping, of course, we love. There's empowerment, the empowerment zone. I used to love, and Yana Van Sant used to go to be a part of the empowerment zone. Even I think I know Oprah Winfrey spoke at the empowerment zone. I wasn't actually there that year, but it's usually a great time for rekindling, rebirth, just having a great time in New Orleans. And this year, the Essence Fest was less than that. And I did attend this year. And I also saw people's responses online. So their response was similar to what my thoughts on Essence was for this year, where it definitely was underwhelming. And in fact, I went to concerts on 2 days, and both days the concerts ran extremely long into the 2 a.m. realm, which was ridiculous after starting at 8 a.m. So there was some changes that definitely had to happen. And then I found out later that Miss Wanga was not even at Essence. In fact, she was on leave since September of last year, September of 2024. So we're going to get into that in a moment. But just to give you some background, she was a CEO at Target. And from Target, she was tapped by Richilieu Dennis to become the CEO of Essence Ventures. So she was hired in 2020 to be the CEO of Essence Ventures. Here she is with Richilieu Dennis. For those people who are not familiar with him, Richilieu Dennis is a business owner, entrepreneur worth over $350 million. He started from his college dorm with a partner of his to develop skincare and hair care lines for people of color. It became the Sundial brand. Sundial Brands was bought by Unilever for $100 million. He also is, or at least was, head of Shea Moisture. So he is a multi-millionaire in the beauty industry. He, in 2018, bought Essence Ventures back from Time Inc., who at that time was the owner of Essence Magazine. He since, in 2020, then hired Miss Wanga to be the CEO of the company. Excuse me. CEO of Essence Ventures. He hired her from Target Corporation. So that's how that relationship started. Both of them are of African descent, which the reason I'm mentioning is because after doing my research, and I'll take this down for a moment, after doing my research, I realized that there were some concerns with people in the African American community because Miss Wanga is of African descent, not African American descent. And so there's a group called Foundationally Black America. And they believed that her kind of global messaging of support of Black people discluded too greatly the care and concern for African Americans. And so that could have been one of the starts of where the challenge for her as CEO of Essence Magazine started. Why? Well, Essence Magazine, for those who are not familiar, became super, super popular back in the, I want to say 70s, 80s, 90s. And Susan L. Taylor, who was editor in chief of Essence Magazine for years, is a huge reason for that. And the aura of Susan Taylor is unmatched. It's one of one. And so it could be that people in the African American community wanted someone who was African American descent. I believe she's from New York. But also, and when I say she, I mean Susan L. Taylor, but also had the aura and essence of a Susan L. Taylor. Susan L. Taylor actually started Essence Fest as well. And I've heard her tell the story of how and why she started Essence Fest and how and why it's free, actually. So it's free to attend Essence Fest, where you go to the day events, but you have to pay to go to the concerts in the evening. And that was to allow a broad range of women to be able to come, share, and be empowered by the gathering that takes place in New Orleans every year. And so with Miss Wanga coming in after Essence was owned by Time Magazine, hence taking it away from African American ownership, and then being her being of non-African American descent, but African descent, could have had its challenges coming in the gate. And so what happened was with Miss Wanga, she came in 2020, which was the height of the pandemic. Those 2 years, Essence was virtual, and then Essence went back to its live format, and she was able to, in 2023, 2024, have Essence Fest. I was hearing murmurings that Essence Fest was not what it used to be, even when it came back. Not sure if that was a direct reflection of Miss Wanga or not, but I'm going to ask a few questions in a moment that I want you all to think about in terms of when you're hiring someone for that top spot at an organization that has the rich cultural heritage or rich heritage of an Essence, what things you have to be thinking beyond technical expertise. And I'm even going to challenge if Ms. Wanga had the technical expertise to handle the job of CEO. So, again, she gets in the role 23-24. 23-24 Essence Fest takes place. She goes on leave September of 2024. Essence in July of 2025. Now, no, the head is off because she's not there for Essence 2025. And I'm going to tell y'all, I saw so many negative reviews about Essence this year, but when the head comes off, I'm wondering who was actually running the planning. And I had a friend who actually was worked with Maxwell and was talking about how backstage things just were not going well. Maxwell was supposed to come on at 11. I don't think he came on till 1 o'clock in the morning. And Maxwell was supposed to be in another country. That threw everything off. So it was just not a good look for Essence Fest this year. But again, the head was off. And then she leaves in 2025, August of 2025, after just 1 month after Essence Fest 2025 was, for lack of a better words, on the verge of debacle from what it used to be in the past. So now, if we're hiring for a CEO or a leader role, what things should we think about that weren't thought about by Mr. Dennis, perhaps when he brought in Miss Wanga, who, yes, she was a VP of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Target, but she was before that in supply chain and distribution, which is very different than a beauty fashion brand. So one question I have is first kind of a simple one. Richilieu Dennis is still the owner. She's the CEO. Essence Fest is the biggest event that Essence has, brings in a lot of money. How do you, as the owner, allow the CEO to be on leave almost the entire year? And who did you have in charge? I know when I used to work in corporate America, if there was something major going on, nobody could take a break. Nobody was taking a break during that time. It was mandatory work. So understand that she may have had some health challenges. Sometimes you have FMLA, which covers a certain period of time, but then they can hire someone to take your place if in fact they need to, and you've extended your FMLA period. So I'm not even sure how in the world she was able to take that much time off and still be in her role. Of course, when you're at the CEO level, you have different contracts written up. And so there may have been some type of contingency in her contract that allowed that to happen. But that's the first question that I have about how the organization was even allowing Miss Wanga to be in position for that long, with that event being the major event coming up and her not being in office. Now, just so people know, there is a little cord back there, which I thought I had that light covering, but we're going to fix that for the next time. So just if you see that, ignore that. Just know we're working on that. Okay. We'll be fixed the next time. All right. Keep going. And it was bothering me, so I keep looking back there, but I had to say, let my audience know that I do know that cord is back there, and we will be fixing that the next time. Okay. Keep it moving. So that's the first question. Second one, and this speaks to the question that people are having, or that I saw related to this FBA, which is Foundationally Black America, something that I'm just seeing about idea, and that her being in position is an attack on that. So successful leaders supersize their niche, which means that when I looked up who Essence serves, it says that Essence serves African Americans. When Essence Fest was super successful, it did an outstanding job of super serving its niche, which were African American women, I have heard interviews with Ms. Wanga where she brought in that they were going to now do a piece where they took care of men. They had a men's area because 30% of the audience was men. They had another area where this year I saw that they were bringing in African artists into the mix. I actually attended the concert with Jill Scott, and there was an Afrobeats artist. And I have to say, just looking at the audience, there were a couple of African people who really enjoyed the music, but for the majority, people were just sitting during that period of the program. So again, if you are a great leader, you super serve your niche. And if you have 98% of your audience who is there for one type of music, it's like you're going to a rock concert, and then I'm waiting for my favorite rock artists and they're coming up, and then in the middle of that, we have an opera singer or we have an R&B singer, maybe great singers, but I'm at a rock concert. And so the music types are different. They were very different between the R&B feel and this African beats feel. And while I appreciate her desire and perhaps Mr. Dennis's desire to expand this to some type of global medium with the rich history that Essence Fest had, my thought is that was a mistake. That was a mistake, and it unnecessarily extended the concert because the person who came on was on for a long period of time. I cannot think of the gentleman's name right now. So another question is, did they go too far or too broad in attempting to bring in or expand the globe of what it means to be Black? There is a distinction between African American and Africans. There are, of course, if you look at melanin and you look at some of the exterior, perhaps you could say, okay, yes, we're all one. However, if you're thinking about our walks are different in a lot of ways. And so that's something that I think Essence needs to look at as they're going forward into 2026 and the Essence Fest. The third thing that I want to talk about was Miss Wanga is a self-proclaimed introvert. In her book and in some of the interviews that I've seen, she speaks to how she is an introvert and she also struggles a little bit with depression. So now we understand that people have different disabilities, and when you're in a workspace, you cannot segment or you cannot be discriminate against that. Especially, she may be on medication for the depression, so that part I'm not going to deal with. I am going to deal with the introvert part because this is very much as a CEO of a company. Number one, you're the person who's out there shaking hands and, as they say, shaking hands and kissing babies. But then up level that, because as you are the CEO of an Essence and you're coming behind people like a Susan L. Taylor, and the next lady's name was Michelle. These are people who they have to be out in front of people. That is how the brand stays strong. I strongly believe that's how Essence stayed strong all of those years. Every month in the spirit, Susan Taylor had an article that was the article that you wanted to read when you picked up an Essence magazine. When you thought of Essence, the person's name you thought of was Susan L. Taylor. Why? Because she was the person who was out front kissing babies and shaking hands. And so my question then is, did Mr. Dennis choose right when he chose a Miss Wanga as the CEO of the company, given that she is an introvert? I even read in her book, I'm highly percent sure that she has to take some days to muster up the energy that is necessary to be around people. That's a strong, strong introvert personality. So I question whether or not, brilliant lady from what I hear when she speaks, but was she the right person for the role to begin with? And if she is someone who does not really people well, I I say that she was likely not even the right person for a role such as this. Mr. Dennis needs to find someone who not just dresses well, because that's external, but internally, they have to have the mindset of empowerment, of wanting to be around people. Definitely, they do have to have the fashion sense, but they have to really embody what an essence woman is. And so I suggest to Mr. Dennis that he goes back and really, formulates an avatar of what it means to be an essence woman. And then the person who comes in as the CEO of Essence Magazine has to be the embodiment of that avatar. So the question I had this week was, can the festival of culture reclaim its essence? I believe that it can. I believe that it can. Essence was still a very crowded event. It was well attended. Personally, do I want to take a step back and look to see how they do next year before I invest money and time in Essence? Absolutely. But I think that it can reclaim its essence. I think it has to definitely go back to the drawing board. And as I said, start with whoever that head is, they need to embody what it means to be an essence woman. And then focus on super serving that niche audience. And of course, since the essence woman has matured, and now you have the younger generation coming in, there are going to be different elements in some ways, but at the root and at the core, there's going to be the feeling that created that magnetic force that drew people to the Essence Festival of Culture every year. So at the center of the star becomes the avatar, and then the points of the star are those additional pieces given the generational and environmental changes that have taken place that can still attract people to the center of the star. So we wish Ms. Wanga well. Again, very intelligent woman. I think she will do well. I think her space, and of course she has not asked me, but I think her space is going to be in a strong leader role. She may even go on her own, but she has to do something that is not going to create the need for her personality and for her to show up in the way that is necessary for the success of a magazine and a festival like Essence. So make sure to pick up our book, Unpacking Agape, the 7 Languages of Intentional Leadership, at worldclasstraining.net/agape. Subscribe right now to the Leaders Lounge. Like this video. And for all of your leadership and professional development training needs, make sure that you check us out at worldclasstraining.net, worldclasstraining.net, for everything related to how to help your teams be better. And we're also going to do something for small business owners and B2B people coming up soon. So we're going to do a B2B conference at the end of the year. So be looking out for that. And then we're also going to be doing some sources for small business owners that are growing, because I'm finding that there is a need that as they're adding to their teams, they need help helping their teams to be better, but they may not have the time to necessarily dedicate to a full training class. So we're going to be providing some resources for small business owners, and we are going to be doing a B2B conference around sales to corporate clients at the end of the year. So we're excited about those. Look for those as well coming soon. The B2B conference is on the site. We just haven't done a formal launch of it. But if you go to the site and you want to sign up, go ahead and do that. And then you're ahead of the game. It's going to be right here in Nashville, Tennessee. All right. So, and finally, as always, at the World Class Training Institute and at the Leaders Lounge, remember, when you're better, we're absolutely better. Take care.